But for all the privileges her family's wealth brought, Olashewa had always felt a quiet longing for something more meaningful, something that couldn't be bought. She was a young woman with a deeply compassionate heart, one who found joy in small acts of kindness and genuine connections rather than in jewels or grand celebrations. Beneath the surface of her well-polished life, she yearned for relationships that weren't influenced by her father's name or her family's status. She wanted friendships that went beyond social gatherings and family connections. People who saw her for who she was, not for what she had. Olashewa was a young woman who had been raised in a world of luxury and refinement. Her father, Chief Ogunmola, was one of the wealthiest men in Ibadan, known for his shrewd business sense and respected far and wide for his influence. Their sprawling estate was a symbol of his success, filled with grand halls, beautiful gardens, and rooms decorated with the finest art and furniture from across the world. Anything Olashewa desired was hers: fine clothes, exclusive education, lavish vacations. Her life was one of elegance, and her days were spent in the comfort of riches that most people only dreamed about. Though her life was surrounded by material comforts, Olashewa's heart remained grounded. She often spent her free time volunteering at local community centers, helping with programs for children and assisting in food drives for the less fortunate. She was often seen with the children in the village, laughing and playing with them, treating everyone with the same kindness and warmth, regardless of their status. Her humility was what set her apart and earned her the quiet admiration of many in the community, who saw that her true wealth lay in her heart. Yet, despite her fulfilling efforts, there was an emptiness in her that no amount of luxury could fill. She longed for a life with meaning beyond possessions, a life where her days were marked by honesty, sincerity, and a true connection with others. She had watched, over the years, as the people around her treated her differently because of her father's influence. Many of the suitors who came to seek her hand seemed more interested in her family's fortune than in who she was as a person. Friends were plenty, but many came and went, swept away by the shifting tides of wealth and status. The fleeting nature of these relationships left her feeling isolated, and she wished for someone who would see her beyond the luxury and privilege. A person who would see the real Olashewa and love her, not for what she had, but for the person she truly was. Olashewa's heart held a hope as bright as her father's wealth, though far more subtle. She believed that somewhere in this vast world, there was a life waiting for her that would be rich not in possessions, but in connection, love, and purpose. In a way, she had everything, and yet she had something very precious to search for. One warm evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast a golden glow over the city, Olashewa was driving back home from a friend's house on the outskirts of Ibadan. She was relaxed, thinking about the good time she'd spent and watching the last light fade through her car window. Suddenly, with a spluttering sound, her car began to slow, and then, as if exhausted, it stopped completely. She found herself alone on a long, deserted stretch of road, with no other cars or people in sight. Her initial calm turned to worry, and she glanced at her phone, hoping for a signal. When she finally got through to her family, they assured her they'd send help, but they were far away and would take at least an hour to reach her. Olashewa sat back in her seat, gazing at the unfamiliar surroundings, feeling more and more isolated as the sky grew darker. Just then, she noticed a figure approaching in the distance, pushing a bicycle and moving at a leisurely pace. The figure got closer, revealing a young man who looked no older than herself. His clothes were simple, and he had the steady, assured gait of someone used to working with his hands. When he noticed her stranded by the roadside, he stopped and gave her a polite nod, his face breaking into a warm smile. "Good evening, ma'am. Do you need any help?" he asked, his voice carrying a genuine tone of concern. Olashewa hesitated for a moment, uncertain. But something in his expression, a mix of kindness and sincerity, put her at ease. She explained her situation, pointing to the car and mentioning her failed attempt to reach her family. He listened attentively, then responded, "I'm Adetola. I'm a mechanic's apprentice. If you'd allow me, I can take a look and see what's wrong. She looked at him, slightly surprised by his confidence. Adetola didn't have the appearance she would have expected from someone offering to fix her car. No tools in hand, just a simple demeanor and the faint smell of engine oil that suggested he'd come from a long day of work. But his eyes held a reassuring calmness, and though she had little reason to believe he could solve the problem, something in his manner made her trust him. "All right, Adetola," she said with a smile. "I'd be grateful if you could try." He nodded and rolled up his sleeves, examining the car with a quiet focus, as if it were the most important task in the world. He gently instructed her to pop the hood, then leaned in, checking the engine with the careful precision of someone who had done this 100 times before. She watched, intrigued, noticing how his hands moved with skill and confidence, belying his humble appearance. As he worked, they exchanged a few words, and she learned that he was learning his trade under a master mechanic in town, building up his skills bit by bit. She could see he took pride in his work, even though his journey was far from complete.
I hope you are enjoying the story. Please, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified anytime I upload new video. Now let's continue the story.
After a few minutes, he turned to her with a smile and said, "It's just a loose connection here. I'll tighten it up and you'll be back on the road soon." Adetola set to work with a practiced ease, his fingers deftly moving through the mechanics under the hood. There was a grace to his movements, a quiet mastery that showed he wasn't just fixing her car. He was immersed in his craft. Each tool he picked up and each adjustment he made seemed like second nature, as if he and the machine were in silent conversation. Olashewa found herself mesmerized by his skill, watching him with a fascination she hadn't anticipated. She noticed the way he furrowed his brow as he worked, the glint of determination in his eyes, and how his hands moved with both care and precision. Curious, she struck up a conversation, and Adetola responded with a quiet passion that surprised her. He spoke about mechanics with a love that went beyond simple skill. This was his dream. One day, he said, his voice full of hope, "I want to open my own garage. I want to give people a place they can trust, where they'll feel taken care of and not just like a number." His words were rich with ambition, but also with a sense of service, a desire to do something meaningful for his community. There was no hint of arrogance in his tone, just a pure and humble sincerity that touched her deeply. As he continued to talk, Olashewa felt a rare connection to his story, a resonance that surprised her. Despite her own world of affluence, she found herself captivated by his unpretentious determination and the purity of his dreams. She saw a rare quality in him, a kind of honesty that wasn't tarnished by wealth or privilege. Adetola was someone who took pride in his work not because of what it could bring him but because of what it meant to him, and Olashewa was struck by the strength of that integrity. It was something she had rarely seen among the people who moved in her social circles, where ambition often came with a price. True to his word, Adetola made quick work of the repair, and the car roared back to life. Olashewa was amazed, not just by the ease with which he had fixed her car, but by the quiet confidence he had shown throughout. She thanked him, feeling a mix of gratitude and fascination with this young man who had come to her aid so selflessly. When he finished, Adetola wiped his hands, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Olashewa felt a rush of gratitude and admiration as she thanked him warmly. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, fully prepared to compensate him generously. But Adetola just smiled, a genuine and unassuming smile that seemed to come from deep within his heart. "There's no need," he said, his voice as steady as his gaze. "I was just happy to help." His words left her silent, a warmth spreading through her that she couldn't quite explain. In that moment, Olashewa realized she had encountered something rare and precious. A person who saw her not as a wealthy heiress or a stranger in need, but as someone deserving of simple kindness. As she offered to pay him, he waved it off, saying, "No need, ma'am. It's what I do." Moved by Adetola's humility and sincerity, Olashewa found herself wanting to extend the moment, to create a reason for this remarkable young man to stay in her life, however fleetingly. With a gentle smile, she reached into her bag, pulling out her phone. "Why don't I give you my number?" she offered, trying to keep her tone light. "In case I ever need a mechanic again." The words were simple, yet her heart fluttered as she spoke them, and a warmth filled her that had little to do with the evening breeze. She couldn't quite place why she felt this way. Perhaps it was his honesty, his quiet strength, or the unassuming way he carried himself. Adetola looked at her, a mixture of surprise and hesitation crossing his face. He hadn't expected anything more than a simple thank you for his work, and here she was, offering him a connection that felt too grand to accept. For a moment, he hesitated, his gaze shifting between her warm smile and the phone she held out to him. This young woman, with her fine clothes and graceful presence, was like someone from a different world. A world he'd only seen from afar, never once imagining he might step into it. Yet, as he looked into her eyes, he saw kindness without a trace of condescension. There was no judgment, only a sincere and gentle invitation. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he took the phone and entered his own number, feeling a blend of excitement and humility. "Thank you," he said quietly, returning the phone to her with a small, appreciative smile. As he did, he wondered what this could mean. Adetola knew he was only a mechanic's apprentice, far from the polished circles someone like Olashewa was used to. And yet, in this brief exchange, he felt seen, valued beyond what he could fix or repair. His world had always been about practical tasks, about proving himself through hard work and dedication. But in this moment, with her genuine gaze and kind words, he felt for the first time that perhaps he could belong to something larger, something meaningful beyond the garage he dreamed of. Their hands brushed as she took back her phone, and they both felt a quiet, unspoken connection in that touch. As she thanked him once more and climbed into her car, he stood back, watching as she drove away, feeling as if his ordinary day had transformed into something extraordinary. For both of them, this small gesture, exchanging phone numbers on a quiet evening road, was the start of a journey they hadn't anticipated, a path neither could yet see but both felt inexplicably drawn toward. They parted ways that evening, but something had shifted in Olashewa. She drove off with a smile, feeling that this chance meeting on a lonely road had left an imprint on her heart, a connection she couldn't yet explain but hoped to explore. Adetola, too, stood by the roadside for a moment, watching her car disappear down the road, his heart light with the memory of her smile. Neither of them knew what the future held, but they both felt that something remarkable had begun. Since that first roadside encounter, Olashewa found herself calling Adetola each time her car had even the slightest issue. She had other options, of course, but Adetola's work was precise, dependable, and beyond that, each visit brought her an excuse to see him again. Their interactions grew warmer and more comfortable with each passing repair. During these brief but meaningful exchanges, Adetola opened up about his life, sharing fragments of his story with a quiet honesty that touched her. He spoke about his dreams, especially his passion for education, which he had been forced to pause after finishing secondary school. His eyes would light up as he talked about his favorite subjects and the dream he had once held of becoming someone his younger siblings could look up to. Yet he shared these dreams with no bitterness, only a quiet resilience, and a small hope that perhaps someday he might find a way to pick up his education once again. Olashewa was captivated. Adetola's life wasn't lined with the luxury she'd known, but his strength, his dreams, and his unassuming manner filled her with admiration. Each story he shared left a mark on her heart. She felt the weight of his struggles, and a deep desire stirred within her to help him in whatever way she could. One evening, after their conversation had left her particularly moved, Olashewa resolved to find a way to support him, if only to see his dreams take flight. A few weeks later, she approached her father, Chief Ogunmola, with a proposition. She recounted the story of her car's breakdown, and how Adetola had repaired it with a skill and dedication that had saved her from costly repairs. She painted a picture of Adedola's reliability, his hard work, and how he could be an asset to their family if hired as their personal mechanic. Mr. Ogunmola, always a practical man, was impressed by his daughter's conviction and curious about this young man who had so deeply impressed her. Without much hesitation, he agreed to meet Adedola and, soon after, offered him the position as their family mechanic. When Adedola began working regularly for the Ogunmola family, he quickly became a familiar presence around their home. His skill with engines and his reliability in all things mechanical won over not only Chief Ogunmola but the entire household. The staff trusted him, the family respected him, and he carried out his work with diligence that left no task half done. To Olashewa, however, these were more than just encounters with a mechanic. Each visit felt like a quiet heartbeat in their blossoming connection. Their meetings were often punctuated by small but meaningful glances, words exchanged in passing that held more weight than mere conversation. With every visit, they discovered more about each other, her world of luxury and privilege and his world of determination and dreams. Though they came from different worlds, these small moments had become their bridge, and through them, Olashewa and Adedola found a growing friendship, one that filled her heart with a tenderness she hadn't known before. Slowly, almost unknowingly, she had become an anchor for his dreams, and he, a quiet source of inspiration she didn't realize she had been searching for. Despite their starkly different worlds, Olashewa and Adedola grew closer with every meeting, each moment they shared blossoming into something deeper and unspoken. Their connection had transcended the lines of friendship, quietly blooming into love, a love that seemed fragile yet unbreakable. It was in the laughter they shared, the stolen glances, and the heartfelt stories they exchanged in quiet corners of the Ogunmola estate. For Olashewa, loving Adedola was like breathing. It was effortless, and it brought her a joy she had never known. But such joy could not go unnoticed for long, especially in a family that prided itself on its standing. The day her mother, Lady Ogunmola, pulled her aside, the room was filled with an icy silence. "What could a man like him give you, Olashewa?" she asked, her voice laced with disappointment and disbelief. "You have everything, every comfort and privilege at your feet. Why would you lower yourself?" But Olashewa only smiled, her heart steadfast as she replied gently, "I love him for nothing, Mama. No riches, no promises, just him." She could see the confusion in her mother's eyes, a reaction that almost seemed to wound her, but she knew that her love for Adedola needed no justification. It was enough to her that he was kind, honest, and that he held dreams as big as the skies. But the objections did not end there. Her family was accustomed to a world of wealth, prestige, and expectations that had shaped them for generations. This made their opposition stronger, fiercer. When her father, Chief Ogunmola, learned of their budding relationship, he could barely believe it. He summoned her to his study one evening, hoping to change her mind with gentle persuasion. "My daughter," he said, leaning forward with a mixture of tenderness and frustration, "you deserve the best. You could have any man you want. Why choose a mechanic's apprentice, someone who can offer you nothing?" Olashewa's gaze softened as she looked at her father, her voice calm but resolute. "Papa, I don't need anything from him," she replied, each word a gentle plea for understanding. "I love him for nothing, nothing but the person he is." Her response left her father silent for a moment, and she could see the conflict in his eyes. He loved his daughter, and he wanted to see her happy, but he couldn't reconcile her happiness with someone from Adedola's station. Even her friends, accustomed to their own circles of privilege, found her choice baffling. They questioned her in whispered tones, wondering what she could possibly see in Adedola. They made subtle jabs, chuckling at the mechanic they deemed beneath their standard of living. "Surely you don't mean to take him seriously?" they would say, expecting her to laugh along. But Olashewa stood firm, brushing aside their remarks with a quiet dignity that none of them understood. Her love was not based on wealth, appearances, or promises. It was built on a foundation of kindness, sincerity, and dreams shared on quiet afternoons. She saw in Adetala a purity of spirit that no riches could match, a rare quality in a world where so many things were measured by status.
I hope you are enjoying the story. Please, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified anytime I upload new video. Now let's continue the story.
Determined to change her mind, Chief Ogunmola introduced her to a series of wealthy suitors, men from influential families, men who held every promise of security and social prestige. He arranged dinner after dinner, hoping she would be swayed by their charming words and polished manners. But her heart remained untouched. With each new suitor, Olashewa found herself growing more certain of her love for Adetala, a love that no amount of wealth or influence could ever overshadow. In his simple acts of kindness, in his unbreakable spirit, she had found a love that made her feel truly alive. And so, each time her father tried to convince her otherwise, she stood her ground with quiet conviction. Her words echoed in his heart, softening his stance over time, though he remained conflicted. To love someone for who they were, to want nothing more than their heart, that was something her father had not expected to see in his daughter. To make matters even more complicated for them, Chief Ogunmola, seeing that his gentle attempts to separate them had failed, took a more drastic measure. One afternoon, he quietly relieved Adetala of his duties as the family mechanic, hoping that by distancing him from their home, he could sever the growing bond between him and Olashewa. It was a quiet but pointed dismissal, and Adetala, sensing Chief Ogunmola's intentions, accepted it without argument. He left their house that day with a heavy heart, knowing that it was not just his job he was leaving behind but the regular moments with Olashewa that had become the lifeblood of his days. For Adetala, the separation felt like a confirmation of his deepest fears. He had always known that their love was unconventional, that it defied the boundaries society had set for them. Yet until now he hadn't let those thoughts linger too long. He had believed in Olashewa's love and found comfort in her unwavering loyalty. But with her father's decision looming over him, he began to feel the weight of his own insecurities with an intensity that threatened to break him. Was he enough for someone like her? A wealthy family's beloved daughter, accustomed to a life of ease and privilege, had chosen him. A simple apprentice with calloused hands and humble dreams. The disparity between their worlds gnawed at him, and though he loved her, he feared that love alone would not be enough to bridge the gulf that separated them. Determined to do what he thought was best for her, Adetala made the difficult choice to distance himself. He would not answer whenever Olashewa called him. She looked for him for weeks until on a quiet afternoon, she met him accidentally by the roadside waiting for a cab. Immediately she packed and came down from her car and walked to him. But why Adetala? Why are you running away from me? Don't mind my family, especially my father. He cannot see what I'm seeing in you. His gaze downcast and his words laced with pain he could barely conceal. He tried to explain his fears, stumbling over his thoughts as he struggled to put into words the inadequacy that haunted him. You deserve so much more, Olashewa, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to hold you back, to keep you from a life where you're truly respected, where you have everything you could ever want. But Olashewa, unwavering as ever, simply took his hand and looked at him with the same kindness and love that had first drawn him to her. She could see the doubt, the worry that darkened his gaze, and she refused to let it overshadow the love they had fought so hard to preserve. I chose you, Adetala, she said, her voice soft but firm. Not because of what you have, but because of who you are. Your worth has nothing to do with riches or status. It's in your heart, in the way you live each day with integrity and strength. Don't let my family's riches overshadow your worth. To me, you are more than enough. Her words cut through his fears like light breaking through darkness, and in that moment, Adetala felt the weight on his heart begin to lift. He realized that what they shared went beyond the material world, beyond the judgments of society or family. It was a love built on understanding, on seeing each other's true selves without the filter of wealth or expectation. Though the path before them was uncertain and steeped in difficulty, he knew that with Olashewa by his side, he could face whatever trials awaited them. Afterward, Adetola took Olashewa to where he was staying with an apprentice friend. She was happy knowing that Adetola was still sincere to the level of showing her where he was staying, though rough and unkept. She assured him that sooner enough, they will get a new and better place. Within a couple of weeks, Olashewa made an arrangement for a new apartment for him not too far from her working place. Surprisingly, Adetola announced the date of his freedom from his master to her, which made her so much happy. And so, despite her father's disapproval and the doubts that lingered on the fringes of their love, Olashewa and Adetola continued their journey together. Their love grew stronger with each passing day, as they learned to weather the storms of prejudice and expectation. With every challenge, they held tighter to one another, building a love that would stand the test of time. A love forged not in riches, but in the strength of two hearts that had chosen each other for all the right reasons. Inspired by Olashewa's unwavering belief in him, Adetola felt a fire ignite within him, a desire to rise above his insecurities and prove that he was worthy of the love they shared. Her words had unlocked something deep inside him, a sense of purpose that had long been dormant. Determined to build a future where he could stand proudly beside her, he threw himself into his work with renewed vigor. But it wasn't just his craft he sought to improve. He realized that his potential reached far beyond the engine bays and greasy tools that had defined his life up until then. He had always dreamed of more, of education, of expanding his horizons. And now, with Olashewa's encouragement, that dream didn't seem so far-fetched. Adetola, having served his apprenticeship under a seasoned master, was now free to carve his own path. But instead of resting on his laurels or settling into a comfortable life as a mechanic, he felt a sense of urgency to grow. The fire within him burned brighter. He wanted to be more than just a mechanic. He wanted to be a man who could stand beside Olashewa, not just in love but in every aspect of life. With Olashewa's gentle support and constant reassurance, Adetola made a bold decision that would change the trajectory of his life. He obtained a university application form, something he had thought impossible just a year before. Adetola had always dreamed of higher education but never had the opportunity to pursue it. But now, with the promise of a better future, he was determined to make it happen. It wasn't an easy journey. Balancing work and studies was a challenge that tested his limits, but he never wavered. Each day after finishing his work in the garage, he would pore over his textbooks, his hands calloused from his trade but his mind sharpening with each lesson. It wasn't long before Adetola was accepted into university. The day he received his acceptance letter was one of the happiest of his life, and he shared the moment with Olashewa, whose eyes shone with pride. She had always believed in him, but now she watched as he proved to himself and to the world that he was capable of so much more than anyone had ever imagined. With Olashewa by his side, supporting him every step of the way, Adetola worked tirelessly to juggle his responsibilities. As he worked on cars and learned new skills in his mechanic shop, he also attended classes, pored over lectures, and engaged with a world of knowledge that had once seemed so distant. The years passed, and Adetola's hard work and dedication paid off. Not only did he graduate with honors, but he also earned the respect of everyone who had ever doubted him. His reputation as a mechanic grew, and soon he opened his own shop, a place where people could rely on his honesty, skill, and integrity. His clients came from all walks of life, and his name became known throughout the city, not just for his exceptional work but for his unwavering commitment to doing things the right way. He had built something from nothing, and it was a testament to his character, to the strength that Olashewa had seen in him when no one else had. Even Olashewa's family, who had once questioned his worth, began to see the value in him, not just as a mechanic but as a man of substance. Chief Ogunmola, in particular, began to understand the depth of Adetola's character and the strength of his love for his daughter. Over time, the walls of resistance softened. They saw how Adetola had elevated himself, not through wealth or inheritance, but through sheer hard work, determination, and a love that had refused to be denied. He was no longer the apprentice from the garage. He was a man of achievement, someone who had proven himself in every way that truly mattered. As Adetola stood beside Olashewa, now a respected graduate and a successful business owner, he realized that the journey they had walked together was more than just about love. It was about growth, resilience, and the power of believing in one another when the world seemed to doubt. What had once seemed like an impossible dream had become their reality. And through it all, Adetola had learned the greatest lesson of all. That love, when coupled with hard work and unwavering belief in oneself, could conquer any obstacle, no matter how insurmountable it seemed. As time went on, Chief Ogunmola, once staunchly opposed to his daughter's relationship with Adetola, began to see beyond his own biases. The change didn't come suddenly or easily, but as he observed the steady growth of Adetola's character and the unwavering love he had for Olashewa, Chief Ogunmola's heart began to soften. Adetola's humility, his hard work, and his integrity spoke louder than any wealth or status ever could. Chief Ogunmola saw that Adetola was not only committed to his daughter but was a man who could build a life of substance, one grounded in love, trust, and determination. It was during one of the many quiet moments spent together in the family home that Adetola, having worked tirelessly to earn his place in the family's eyes, approached Chief Ogunmola with a quiet resolve. His heart was full of respect for the man who had once doubted him, but it also carried the weight of his love for Olashewa. With genuine humility, he asked for Olashewa's hand in marriage, acknowledging both the privilege and responsibility of becoming a part of her family. "Sir, I know I am not of your world," Adetola began, his voice steady but full of sincerity. "But what I offer you is a heart that will always care for Olashewa, a heart that will stand beside her through every storm. I love her with everything I am, and I promise to cherish her for the rest of my life." For a long moment, Chief Ogunmola studied him in silence. The weight of the years, of his doubts and fears, seemed to melt away as he looked into the eyes of the man who had stood by his daughter, never wavering. In that gaze, Chief Ogunmola finally saw the depth of Adetola's love. A love that had grown not from riches but from character, from quiet perseverance, and from the kind of devotion that could not be swayed by status or wealth. With a deep breath, Chief Ogunmola finally nodded, his voice gruff but full of warmth. "I see now what my daughter sees in you, Adetola. You've proven yourself. You've shown me that love is not about what you have, but about who you are. You have my blessing." The moment of approval was more than a mere formality. It was the culmination of a journey that had once seemed impossible. Adetola, with his humble background, had won not only the approval of Olashewa's father but also the respect of everyone around him. It was a victory of love over prejudice, of determination over doubt.
I hope you are enjoying the story. Please, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified anytime I upload new video. Now let's continue the story.
And so, Olashewa and Adetola's wedding day arrived, a day that was nothing short of magical. It was a celebration that transcended the boundaries of wealth, class, and status. The event was filled with joy and laughter, with people from all walks of life coming together to witness the union of two souls who had defied the odds to be together. The wedding was a beautiful blend of tradition and modernity, of two worlds colliding and becoming one. The air was filled with love, and everyone from Olashewa's friends and family to Adetola's humble community could see the pure joy that radiated from them both. The ceremony was not just a union of hearts, but a declaration that true love is not bound by social standing, wealth, or expectations. It was a testament to the power of persistence, of standing firm in the face of adversity, and of believing that love, when nurtured with respect and honesty, could overcome even the greatest challenges. In that moment, Olashewa and Adetola knew they had not just won each other's hearts, they had also won the hearts of those around them, proving that love, above all, is what truly unites people. As they walked down the aisle, hand in hand, their hearts full of hope and promise for the future, they knew that their journey was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, as there are in every marriage. But Olashewa and Adetola were no longer just two individuals with different dreams. They were a team, united by a love that had been tested and had triumphed. The years ahead would not be easy, but they were ready. With trust as their foundation and love as their guide, they would face whatever came their way together. Olashewa and Adetola's love was proof that the truest love is not the one that asks for riches, nor the one that promises a life of ease. Their love was built on something far more enduring, the unwavering belief in each other, the kind of love that asks for nothing yet gives everything. And in that love they found everything they had ever needed. And so, Olashewa and Adetola's love story unfolded into a life filled with deeper meaning, where the richness of their connection outshone the material wealth they had once known. In the years that followed, they lived not in the grand halls of luxury but in the warmth of each other's presence, finding joy in the simplicity of their shared moments. They were no longer two individuals from different worlds, but a partnership grounded in mutual respect, unwavering trust, and a love that had withstood the trials of life. Their home, though modest, was filled with laughter, love, and the beautiful rhythm of everyday life. Olashewa had traded the superficiality of societal expectations for the quiet joy of watching Adetola grow into a man who, in her eyes, was more than she had ever dreamed of. Adetola, on his part, had found in Olashewa a woman whose heart was not swayed by wealth, but whose love was pure and unconditional. She had become his strength, his muse, and the center of his world. They knew that their love, though born in adversity, had been a blessing that they would treasure forever. As the seasons passed, their love grew deeper, rooted in the shared experiences of overcoming challenges, supporting one another, and building a life together from the ground up. The house they had made their home was simple, but it was theirs, a place where every corner told a story of resilience, of dreams shared, and of promises kept. Every morning, as they sat down for breakfast together, they cherished the quiet moments of peace, knowing that their love had become the most valuable treasure they could possess. Adetola, now an accomplished mechanic with his own thriving business, never forgot the humble beginnings that had shaped him. And Olashewa, with her deep love for him, had found the richness she had once sought in material things, now residing in the bond they had formed. The love they had built was not a fleeting passion, but a steady flame that warmed their hearts every day. They never grew tired of learning from each other, of growing together as individuals and as a couple. Their love was a reflection of the simple joys of life, where the greatest gifts were not riches or grand gestures, but the everyday acts of kindness, patience, and understanding that bound them together. And so, Olashewa and Adetola continued to live happily, not because of the things they owned or the status they had achieved, but because they had found in each other the kind of love that transcends all else. They cherished each day, and their love, simple yet profound, continued to grow and flourish. They had discovered that sometimes, the most precious things in life are the ones that ask for nothing, yet give everything. And in that truth, they found their greatest happiness, living forever in the simplicity and sweetness of their love.
Thanks for watching today's story. I believe you enjoyed every bit of it all. Now I want you to do me one favor, subscribe to this channel, like and turn on the notification bell if you have not done so that whenever I release my next video, you will be notified immediately. See you soon.